Guys, I have to come out about something. I'm a monarchist. Whoa, so surprising you didn't know something about a guy who only has 3 videos out, and the title probably also gave it away. Well anyways, this video is going to be more over on the political side, where my already posted videos are more over on the side of philosophical, and because of that, it's going to have a bit of a different editing style and vibe. Well, enough with the chatting, and on to the video on refuting common and horrible anti-monarchy talking points. First, what is monarchism? It's the idea of having a monarch as head of a country, but there are many forms of monarchy, and one type of it may be completely different to another, in reality only being the same thing in name. For example, what is the difference between an elected monarch and a person elected president for life? That's a question for another time. This critique is against general anti-monarchy talking points, and some points may be better against some types than others, and also therefore there are also some types of monarchy which are better than others. Point 1. Monarchs have expensive things paid for by taxes. This argument is almost entirely propped up by lies, but one at a surface level that seems pretty good. Because, of course, why should taxpayers' money go to buying some expensive fancy lavish things for some random person? I sure personally don't want my tax money going to that, and I'm sure most people also don't want their tax money going to that. With good reason. Well, why then is this a bad argument that's entirely propped up by lies? It's because of the fact this is but a figment of imagination, made from falsehoods by those who are against monarchy and don't care for truth, and foolishness from not thinking about it properly. Let me ask, do you think we should use taxpayer money on preserving historical and cultural monuments and artifacts? Most likely your answer to that is yes, which I agree with 100%, because those beautiful things are way more worth than money, and that's exactly why it's a bad argument, because it isn't like the castles and palaces monarchs live in were made only recently for them to live in, or the crowns and garments they wear were only made just recently for them to wear sometimes, or the carriage, plates, forks, beds, tables, chairs, and all the other things monarchs used were made with taxpayer money in the current times. No, they were made long ago, and even without the monarch, money would be spent on preserving them, only difference being they wouldn't be used. It's even dumber when you think about how those things were made by the monarch's ancestors, and thus they have a right to it and it's their personal property, which in a way could be a good argument about taxpayer money going to private property, but this is not the time for that. And having a monarch actually also makes it so those things are better preserved, as they will also use their own wealth for such a purpose. Point 2. Being born into such a position is unfair. This position, just like the last one, seems logical at first glance, because why should someone have such a high position just because they were born into it? That is the surface level argument at least. But what if one deconstructs it? What does it mean? We should abolish the monarchy because it's unfair someone can just be born into that. Say we do that and abolish the monarchy. Now being born into a rich family, that's also unfair someone can just be born into that. Should we also abolish rich families then? If so, with a right to communism, which this isn't an anti-communism video, but then what if someone is born into a family with abusive parents, or more busy parents that are absent, or a parent that died before their birth? What should we do then? Stop people from being born into unfavorable families? That's sadly impossible. But what if we somehow find a way around that and make all families equal? After that, what if someone wants to have been born a different ethnicity? Or you wish you were born Japanese, go take a shower. Or you wish you were born Abkhaz. Or you wish you were born mystic, It's something that's impossible, but what if we somehow again find a way around it? Then what if someone wished they were born in a different place? Or you wish you were born in America and not where you actually were born? Impossible again. And oh, you wish you were born in the Roman times, based, but again impossible, and so on and so forth. There is always going to be people who are born in ways that seem better and more lucky to others, and others will always wish they were born in a better way. But that isn't how the world works, and that will seem unfair to some, but envy isn't going to solve those things. And because the monarchy gets abolished or communism is established, isn't going to fix that. This take is just an envious person seeing that others have things they don't, instead of becoming envious of what the others have and seething over it. Just commit yourself to trying to get those things. That's what I intend on doing personally. And a last note here, this point doesn't work against an elective monarchy, or something like in the medieval, where they put someone talented who did something good as the monarch. That's how many royal houses were started to begin with. And also, here's a little bit of my own flavor of monarchism. I personally think instead of restoring old royal houses to nations that don't have one anymore, I think we should crown someone that did something good for the state. It really puzzles me how French monarchists argue so much over which house to restore. Seriously, instead find someone who did something good for the French state and make them monarch. I don't know who would be that someone in this day and age, but you get the point. And after all, that is the reason Skanderbeg was made the leader of Albania, or Karađorđe that of Serbia. Point 3. A monarchy is pointless. This point is just outright wrong. Being a monarch is a job with duties, just very different duties from that of most people's jobs. An absolute monarch has the job of running an entire country, and a monarch with just some power has the same, just not to the same extent. But of course, this argument is mostly not against those types, and instead against a constitutional monarchy, which also has important duties, like being an example of the model citizen of whatever nation, and more so, the entire royal family has the duty of being model citizens and the model family to inspire the nation's people. The monarch also has the duty of being a figurehead of the country, going to ceremonies commemorating the nation's history, culture, and people, or going to geopolitical events representing the country and its interests on the world stage. Probably the most important duty of a constitutional monarch is to be a figurehead of unity for the nation and its people, holding them together despite having different religions, political opinions, or coming from different ethnicities, being a point they can all look at and find their commonalities instead of looking at their differences and hating each other for those reasons. Sadly, in the modern day of extreme political polarizations, where different sides seem to hate each other with a fury coming straight from hell, and ostracizing people with differing opinions, further dividing them into hateful camps, hostile to the thought of the other, instead of having healthy discussions like civilized people would, which would make it better to have a monarch figurehead to unite them if it weren't for the fact one of those sides hates the concept of monarch in country that used to unite people. Point 4. Monarchy is outdated. This take is just a lazy one, as whenever someone argues it, they always just say that monarchy is it without any sort of explanation as to how it is it. Or if they do, they give some half argument like the last two parts which you just watched, but go back and watch it again to give me watch time. Or maybe they'll say some unclear point of old clothes, old thing Yes, old thing bad, outdated. Or it was made long ago and still exists, which means it's somehow outdated. Or maybe they'll go with the classic, white men bad. This take is simply just another plea to those men in these times who think traditions are no more than dumb, reasonless relics to also begin thinking monarchy is another of those quote-unquote reasonless relics. Point 5. A monarchy is a waste of money. This argument ties into the first one, but I want 5 points because that's a nice number. But there are some differences to that argument in this one, as this one is more tied to lifestyle than materials like the last one. The argument is that the government uses too much tax money on funding the royal family's lifestyle. As for example, the British government pays the royal family 85 million British pounds a year. The thing that isn't told though is the royal family also willingly lets the government have more of the money they earn than what they receive from the British government. Not to mention that the royal family probably also makes the state earn more than what they would without them, as most people are intrigued by a monarchy and have more interest in visiting the royal castle where the queen or king lives, the king's castle, more than some random old castle that was used as a residence hundreds of years ago. The royal families of the world also earn their money in other ways than just mooching off of government tax money. They are also business people. That is after all how their families got to that position, because they worked their way there, whether it was by fighting for the freedom of the nation, or if it was by being a powerful landowner who conquered or did business to the position. Many royal families also live humbly. They shop at the same stores of the everyman of the nation, use public transport, or mingle with the common people. Like the video of the hikers who met King Charles while hiking some time ago. Monarchs and royals are just like the common people, they just have a different job than most do. I'll make more videos about political ideas in the future, but for now I will make mostly philosophical videos. But when those times come, I'll go more into depth about my type of monarchist thinking. But for now, a king should be for a country and a people, not have the country and people be for him.